Okay. So welcome again to the Sound Healers Association May meeting. As I mentioned, these meetings are for the members of Sound Healers Association and open to the public as an introduction to SHA. If you're new on the call, please visit our website, soundhealersassociation.org. For all existing members, please remember to post your events in the directory, which is open to the public so that folks can find you in your city, state, country. Send articles for the newsletter and blog, and feel free to start a dialogue in the forums. I'm going to ask you all to say hello in the chat and tell us where you're from and what sound tools you work with personally or professionally. If you do that, so if you could just take a minute to do that now. And while you're doing that, I'm going to welcome our most awesome guest today, Eeshi-Ra Hart, originally from the UK, now living in Bali, the founder of Sonic Life Solutions. Eeshi-Ra helps people tune in on a more natural and healthy way of being using scientifically researched sound healing frequencies. Excuse me. She is a sound healing mentor, singer, trauma release, breath coach, and body worker. She's a visionary international speaker and vocal coach with over 20 years experience in the sound healing world. She's passionate about sharing the major healing potential of breath, sound, movement, body wisdom, and consciousness for healing. Excuse me. For healing, sexual empowerment, and the embodiment and awakening of the divine I am within. She has trained in the healing power of sound and healing with the voice with some of the world's top experts, such as Jonathan Goldman, Chloe Goodchild, Chris James, Karina Sheldy, John Beaulieu, and Randy Masters. Eeshi-Ra offers, excuse me. Eeshi-Ra offers sound healing mentoring for individuals and sound healing practitioners and workshop facilitators who have an interest in healing the body using the voice, body sonics, and frequencies that facilitate that. She has also pioneered a new tuning fork modality and launched her Earthing Tuning Fork Practitioner course. Please join me in welcoming Eeshi-Ra to the Sound Healers Association monthly meeting. Hi, Eeshi-Ra.
Hey everyone, thank you so much, Nasiri, for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity to share my passion for sound.
We're so delighted that you could join us today, and just in getting ready for this meeting, it's certainly been a pleasure and honor for me to get to know you better.
Likewise.
So, thank you so much for joining us. And you've lived in so many places around the world. And I was astonished just in our conversation at all the places that you've lived. Can you, I know you've lived in the UK and the US, and now you're in Bali. Have you lived other places as well?
Yes, also Australia. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Where were you originally born?
Originally born in the UK.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So to give us a better idea of your journey with sound, can you take us back to the beginning and tell us, how did you get into sound healing?
Yes, well, it's been a really interesting journey, and I've really been following my path from an intuitive place of just following the signs, you know, those beautiful synchronicities you get. And actually, it first started at Jonathan's Loveland Sunrise Ranch. And yeah, I've been a singer most of my life, from a kid. I've done started as a professional singer in 1986. I've been trained in opera, went into jazz, then went into pop, then went into gothic pop, trance, ambient, hip hop, and so many genres. And I got bored of all of it. And I think my path was really calling me for something else. And I was in the States at the time. I was working on a project called Earth Dance, a global peace event. And I heard about Jonathan's Lost Chord conference, and I was fascinated. I was like, okay, I'm really feeling called to that. Lost Chord sounds very mysterious and wonderful. And and I was watching, I was looking at the different booths that were available. And there was one lady, and she was selling the role of music in the 21st century. And for any of you who know Fabienne Maman, who's a very interesting sound healer working with tuning forks, I got fascinated by a part in the book which was talking about using sound in vitro DNA in the lab in Paris, and how the cells were emitting pink light. And this just really got my scientific mind going. I trained in French and biology at school. So at my last 2 years at school, I loved science, but I also loved the arts. And it started making me think about humanity and where our challenges are, and whether there is perhaps one frequency or a set of frequencies we can give to the body that can be like a reboot for us. And that has taken me on a long journey of asking that question and waiting for a reply. Didn't initially get a reply, but 6 months after that, I finally got a reply. And that has then guided me to find the frequencies of the solfeggio, or the wider number set, the zobe, which is 18 frequencies, and then to connect with Randy Masters, who's been a guiding light in my world ever since. And yeah, quite an amazing gentleman, and so very generous with his time and his wisdom. And I have basically, yeah.
I want to ask you to speak a little bit to share with folks about your meeting with Randy Masters, because you told me that story a couple of nights ago, and I think it's a great story. So
it's a great story. Yeah. So I was in Australia, and I was recording my first album. I was inspired by the book, The Role of Music in the 21st Century. I was recording different musical keys for the different musical instruments for the different organs of the body. For example, the stringed instruments are for the heart, and I had violin, harp, and guitar. And I was recording and received a dream. And in the dream, I was shown the planetary shift that we are going through right now. And I was told that the key was Ra. And I didn't really understand the dream at the time. And subsequently, I had a photo shoot, and I had all these orbs show up in the photos. And then a week later,
that happens.
It was so bizarre. It really changed my life, actually. I had one by my head, 3 come up in front of me, and then this other one, which was a circle with a line through it at a diagonal. And a week later, I'm suddenly at this sound healing workshop run by Randy Masters. Never met him before. And he's talking about maths. And I'm starting to go, oh gosh, I'm not really a fan of maths. But he starts, I'm here for sound. But anyway, he started talking about maths, and he talks about pi, which we've all learnt in school, that algebra, equation.
E = mc squared.
Right, all of that, And he said, but many people don't know what phi looks like. And he said it's drawn either a circle with a line going directly down vertically, or it's drawn at a diagonal. And I was like, oh my God, that appeared in light at my feet a week ago for my photo shoot for my album. What is that? And he said, oh, it's Ra maths. And then I got so excited. I was like, that was in my dream, just a few weeks before. And I said, okay, I've been asking this question for a year. Universe, please show me, is there one frequency or a series of frequencies that we can reboot our body back to that place of alignment, attunement, connection with the earth, connection with source? And he then casually turned to this, set of 18 tuning forks on the table. And he said, oh yeah, it's this set of frequencies. And basically that got me started. And yeah, I then trained in tuning forks. But I developed my own sound healing tuning fork modality for solfeggio, but specifically working with the 111 hertz, because this is a master frequency and it has multiple benefits for us mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And then I started hearing about PEMF and how that is one of the market leaders, Swiss Bionic. They actually make their PEMF mat and other devices with the Schumann frequency. And so that's bringing in earth vibrations. And I thought, well, okay, not everyone can afford a $5,000 mat. That's in Australian dollars. It's about 3,000 US. I thought, okay, how can I create a tuning fork modality which uses that frequency, the Schumann, but also goes on better and uses the geomagnetic? Because most sound healers are only working with the Schumann, but the Schumann is the yang and we need the yin, which is the geomagnetic. So then the earthing tuning fork modality was born. But I was also feeling the call to work with the voice. And because if you know about the solfeggio, you'll know that the 396 and the 528, 396, very good for clearing emotional stuff. So I started to intuitively work with that. And I'd been really inspired by Tony Robbins. And I remember him talking about, I don't know if you know him, but he teaches business skills, presentation skills.
I know who Tony Robbins is, sure.
Yeah, great. And yeah, and he was, there was one thing he said when he got up. He said, the quality of your life depends on the quality of your questions. And it really landed in me and it super inspired me, because I suddenly thought, wow, well, how about instead of thinking I know it all, which we can all do, how about I'm simply asking the body, show me what is the sound, what is the breath, what is the movement, what does the body want to do here? When I've got trapped trauma, working with a client, 28 years of pain, 7 years of pain, numbness from a car accident, how does the body want to unravel that? And giving that container to a client is so powerful, because you're no longer directing the session. You're using the frequencies to support them, vibrating that to the surface, but they guide themselves. And ultimately they're doing it for themselves. And it's been such an honor and such an inspiration, because seeing how their bodies respond, and it's like they suddenly get permission to go in there and unravel that story. So that's then really encouraged me to continue with the voice. And I've worked with different people for going deeper. So solfeggio is more for working through the energy field, working through clearing dissonance, reharmonizing a lot of the disconnects we have in the energy field above us and below us, and opening up the full pranic energy field of the body, because a lot of us are shut down. And then the earthing is about resetting the body's connection to the earth. And that's also really important when you're working with devices, because technology does affect our brain function and our connection. So, and then with the,
I'm going to jump in here for a second.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, because we also spoke about, we were talking about this the other night, about grounding, and you're calling that earthing.
Yes.
So
yes.
Can you speak to a little bit about that? Because I mean, that's when it is, as we discussed in our conversation, how vital that was and why. So can you speak to that just a little bit before we go on? And I do want to honor the people on the call and just say thank you for putting in the chat. And I will mention who you are and where you are after Eeshi-Ra talks about this a little bit.
Great. I'm so glad you mentioned this. Sound is ether, as you all probably know. And so it has that capacity to unground us. And I know for me, you know, my energy, I'm really good with bringing in, you know, divine energy. I'm very connected in that way. But my life has really been about getting in my body. You know, I've done lots of different body work. I've done lots of different breath work. And actually, if we are naturally earthing and we are really opening up the energy flow through the body, we can discharge stress. And, you know, 85% of disease, there's a beautiful book called Earthing by Clinton Ober. He talks about 85% of disease being related to lack of earthing. So when I'm teaching, I see some sound healers striking a fork, and, you know, they're actually quite distracted. They're maybe looking around the room. You know, I'm thinking about an expo or you know, a festival. They're not so focused on the client, and they're more up in their head. And I know for me, I can be really in my head too. So I'm very much about bring the energy down so that you are really not only transmitting the frequency that you are working with, but you're also transmitting that frequency through your body with the consciousness of what this frequency represents. So you're embodied, because what I found with that is once you do that, the client has a different experience. They have a deeper experience. You're more present. You're out of the head. But that takes quite a bit of personal work, you know, which I think is super important, you know, doing a lot of breath work, you know, helping yourself be more present and feel, navigate, sense what's going on for the client. And then everyone can have a deeper experience. And then the client gets a better healing outcome at the end.
So I love what you said about earthing. I like that word, earthing versus grounding.
Yes.
But also about breath work. And I'm just going to ask the folks on the call if anyone on the call has done anything with breath work to please put that in the chat, because that's one of the things that we had talked about as well, that I also have a background in breath work. And it's taken from us, if you're doing breath work, you are totally in the body. You are no longer in your mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
What the things that come up are just absolutely amazing, because it's connected with the breath and breathing and your diaphragm and your gut, and it just brings everything down and out of the head. So
and also we constrict in the throat. So
huge.
when I'm teaching, you know, I actually, this might surprise some of the ladies here. But when I do my sessions, some of them are on the table for tuning forks, but for working with the voice, I have the clients stand. Why do I get them to stand? Well, when they're standing, they are in the breath and they're in their sound and they're in the movement. So they can really navigate and feel their body. So instead of vaguing off, I mean, sometimes it's a beautiful way to integrate, you know, when you dissociate or you go to sleep, you know, it's a beautiful way for the body to integrate. But if you're standing, you can go so much deeper. And, you know, I'm guided by that question, what's the best choice for the client, you know, and then they have to engage or not. I mean, sometimes they won't want to take themselves there, but slowly over time and a bit of gentle encouragement, they do get there too. And yeah, the breath, opening with a wide throat, you know, with breath work, it's so good because then the entry channel is so much wider, and then the exit route can be just really big too. And then energy shifts are deeper, faster, and you get better results. Yeah.
So I do just want to take a minute and just give some voice to what some of our folks are saying. So we have Kathy saying she agrees with the practitioner embodying sound work in connection with client work. And she's working with that in her practice. And Lisa saying, I tell my students that all the time, being connected to earth and being present with your clients. And I love that Kathy's saying, in fact, notice with COVID, so many of our clients have listed connection to earth and feeling terribly disconnected and ungrounded.
Yeah.
I think that's a great point, that is really up for so many people. Never, and I think part of it not only is the isolation, but also feeling the feelings of disconnection, but also being ungrounded. I think all of that's interwoven together. So
yeah, especially now because we're using technology more, you know, it's really important to be aware of that. Yeah,
that is such a great point, because even whether it's cell phones or computers, and this is a perfect example, all those meetings that would take place in person are now happening over Zoom and electronic devices. And you know, which increases the isolation, and yet you have all those frequencies being disruptive as well. So I just think it's massive in the greater scope of things. And you know, for a minute, it makes sense to me now, because you mentioned your background in school being science. And when we were talking, I personally am much more intuitive. So am I more focused on the frequencies? No, I'm more focused on the fields and the aura and the alignments and those things intuitively. So you had talked to me about the science of sound. So do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yes, I love hertz, you know, knowing the hertz of my instrument. And again, it's guided by that question, what is the best choice? So that's something that Randy Masters, my mentor, has really been very focused on. And when I think about what is the end result I want to achieve, now, I mean, sound healing's gone mainstream technically, and you can go on PubMed, you can also go on the Indian NCIH, is it? The website, and there's so much research there. So, you know, 128 hertz for nitric oxide release, which is so good for inflammation, or 50 hertz for bone healing, that's for osteoclast formation. Or you've got 111, which is my favorite master frequency. It does so many things: hemispheric rebalancing, beta endorphin stimulation, so it's very good for pain. It's also very good for learning disabilities. It's good for uplifting your mood. It's even good for DNA activation and spiritual unity. It's actually a frequency which tunes us into the Christ, Krishna, Buddha consciousness, our solar self. And you can see that when you start to look at Vedic math.
Let me jump in here again. When you talk about this work, and can you hold it up, that 111? So when you use that, are you putting that directly on the body? Are you using another fork with it? Can you, and I'm taking us in this direction.
Yeah.
We haven't really talked about that, but I just like you to be a little more specific about that fork. And then we'll go back to the voice, because I see most of the folks on here are working with the voice. So,
that's great.
Yeah.
So different it depends on the client. And for demos, I'm doing it here. Why? Because it's a major bone of the body, and it immediately communicates through the skeleton, you know, within, you know, 10 times faster bone conduction through the bone compared to, say, onto the belly, which is what, you know, more water. That's only 4 times faster, you know, compared to the ear. And you think to the ear would be the fastest. And then, so as a demo, but then if I'm working with the Schumann frequency and I'm working with the geomagnetic, then yes, I work with the pair. And I have also started to incorporate, you know, being inspired by the acutonic system, starting to incorporate, okay, so if we need to earth the body, what are the meridian points for earthing? So working with those points. If I'm working with solfeggio frequencies, the zobe, I'm moving it through the energy field. So it's a more energy field based modality. And yeah, using points, I mean, meridian points like stomach 36, spleen 6. So is it stomach 38? Stomach 36? Yeah, stomach 36 and spleen 6. And, these kind of points, they're amazingly transformational. And, when we know the 111 is also very good for brain rebalancing, and it also speaks to other parts of the brain, stimulating empathy and also locking down the speech center. So it really encourages an internal focus. So it helps someone, if they're quite chatty or quite up in their mind, it really helps them drop in.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your calling that out, and also mentioning acutonics. That actually is the forks that I was trained in as well with Jonathan. So
great.
So I appreciate the connection and also the differentiation, and how different fork modalities can work together. And we have a question from Kathy that she's been drawn to transmitting sound and vibration through feet. Do you suggest sternum instead?
That's so interesting. You mentioned the feet. I mean, the whole body is mapped on the hand. The whole body's mapped on the feet.
Right.
So I would
use the feet to start.
Yeah, I would follow.
But then I moved to the sternum. So I think it's interesting that she's asking this question as well.
Yeah, I think, initially, if a client's coming to you, they're rushing maybe to get there, they had difficulty parking or whatever, the 111 or another frequency, the 136.1 on the sternum is so good because it goes to all of the body super quick. And then, I would go to the feet or do the feet last for earthing at the end. But if, say, you've got a reflexology qualification and they're dealing with spleen deficiency, or they've got kidney issues, or they've got bladder problems, then you could be very deeply working on the feet. It really depends what the outcome is that you want to create.
That's a great point. And Lisa mentions that she ends with points on the feet to ground them before they go home. And I do that as well, Lisa. And that was also a pivotal point in acutonics, that you do that before your client leaves.
Yeah, kidney one is great.
Yeah, also writing a check is very grounding. So I'll just throw that out.
Yeah, and doing a bit of self-massage, like for my sound journeys, which I've been doing since 2011. I get people to massage, and when they come out of a sound journey, they are very sensitized. So I ask them to really focus on the quality of touch that their body really wants. How slow, how fast. And that is also very grounding, and also to get 3 hugs as well from people they don't know.
There you go. Wonderful. Thanks for letting me divert you a little bit there, because
go for it.
Yeah, it just felt like the right place to go in that moment. So I'm going to shift this back now. Let's to our discussion about using the voice, because and your sonic work. So can you speak a little more? And I was so amazed by just your years of musical background and singing, and then this transition into sound healing. So can we shift back to the voice?
Sure. Yeah. Training professionally as a singer, it's been very interesting because I haven't actually used it as a tool for healing only more recently, which is kind of surprising. But so body sonics was the first modality that I really started to create, working with the solfeggio frequencies for emotionally shifting stuff. And it was very interesting to me to see how people would, it's also an earthing frequency. It's about getting on the earth and clearing out negative emotions like fear, guilt, shame. And I think, again, scientifically, it's like, okay, we need to empty out the container first of the old, ways of being. And then we need to reaffirm that the heart is connected. The heart is so loved, and we are connected to love in every moment. So then working with the solfeggio heart frequency 528. And then once we have anchored the truth of who we are, then we can expand and use the unity frequency, the 111. And as I said before, you know, being guided by questions. And then my work took me, I went to France a few years back. And I had already started working with the voice, healing with the voice, doing sonic soul retrieval, where if this feels like I'm tapping into an Egyptian past life, because it's kind of like the voice is going on automatic. I'm setting my intention, I'm working down through the energy field, and I'm moving my hand at different points in their energy field and asking to be shown what the frequency is and what the timbre or the tonality is. And the voice goes completely into another place, which is almost, I have to say, bizarre. You know, it's not pretty, it's not perfect, it's not, but it's looking for the dissonance. It's like when we're in that place of separation and we've got all this trauma, parked, different life experiences which aren't integrated in the body and unresolved, they're just sitting there, and it needs that kind of, you know, vibration to wake it up, to free it. And it's, you know, a pretty sound isn't going to do it.
No, it has to be discordant, a jar. Sometimes.
Yeah. And I'm literally just, I'm just following my intuition on that. And also by setting that intention to literally clear out what is held, whether it's this life or past life or future lives even, then I also start to get transmissions from past life or this life of conversations, communications which haven't been completed. And sometimes it can come through with lots of emotion, and I'm pouring tears down my face, and I'm going, but this isn't mine. I can feel this is not mine. I'm very kinesthetic. I'm not a seer, so I really work with the kinesthetic part of me. But then I can feel it's probably theirs. You know, and when I first started doing this, it was a bit unnerving, because when this first lady that this happened with, she was like 70 plus, and she was motionless, not feeling anything. And I was like, what's going on here? I'm crying buckets.
And you're falling apart.
You know, and I'm like, and then I literally got to the point where I was like, okay, now I'm guided to ground the divine I am through her body into her. And then she took this deep breath in, and she went, ah! She had this complete meltdown.
Oh
and
my gosh.
And it was so beautiful, because she was an older generation, and I felt like she'd just been holding it her whole life. So it was beautiful to see. And then and then I went to France, and I did Black Madonna and Mary Magdalene tour. And I was told, and I shared this with you before, I was told, you're going to go to England and you're going to sit and you're going to wait for a transmission. And I'm like, what?
I'm not very patient.
But, you know, no, I'm not very patient. I'm an Aries. Like, can you tell me what that is? You know, no, you're just going to have to wait. So I waited. I went back to UK, and I was basically shown, like, if we think about this, I was shown a way to put the law of attraction on turbo boost. If we think about mentally resonating with an idea, say, let's talk about money. If we think about, you know, many of us may have challenges around money, manifesting what we want, paying the bills month to month. And we can mentally resonate with the fact that I can attract everything I want right now. There's more than enough for me. But if I don't physically resonate with it, then I'm not vibrating that. And so I can't manifest it in my world, because I'm not sending that signal out. And so I was shown this process of, and it's very linked to sonic soul retrieval. It's about going into the dissonance. That through that, and also tapping into the Nag Hammadi scrolls, the Lost Book Gospel of Thomas, it's all about, you know, the lost power of prayer. It's like the heart is so much, it's 100 times stronger. The Heart Math Institute shows that, you know, it's 100 times stronger than the brain. So why would we ever focus with affirmations in the brain? It doesn't make sense. And so I was basically shown the steps of how you take people to that. And as I started to do it, I made the biggest sale on my website I've ever made when I was showing someone else how to do it, not even myself. But because I was in that vibration of that amount of positivity, I started to realize, like, wow, we're all walking around with a voice. You know, if we can speak, we can sound. And
Right.
so, you know, that as a tool I find hugely exciting, very empowering. And it means really we can bring the power back to, I can become my own healer. You know, sure, there are certain things I need to go to the hospital for if I've got a broken bone or I need surgery for certain things.
Right.
But a lot of this is vibrational, and especially now, the Great Awakening, you know, we have that opportunity to perhaps be more inward, you know, and do that inner work and ask questions. Ask questions to the body. The body is so bursting. That's what I found.
It really is.
It's so like, oh, please, please, you know, and once it knows you're listening, it will show
I'll
us.
tell you.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well, I think this is a perfect time to shift into a sample of your work.
Great.
So, would you be willing to share a sample of what you're talking about with us?
Yes, absolutely. I'd love to share one of my favorite exercises, and it's a little bit of a play on words. I don't know if you know that drill that breaks up the tarmac, or I don't know what you call it in
Pneumatic drill.
The pneumatic drill. Yeah, it breaks up the tarmac on the road before they're laying another bit of tarmac, or what do you call it in the States?
Pneumatic drill.
You do call it the pneumatic drill as well.
Yep.
Okay. And I've renamed it, call it the pneumatic trill. So working with that idea that the drill, you know, it breaks up energy and we can use the voice for the same idea. So what I'm going to share with you, you're going to vibrate the tongue, the back of the top of the inside of the teeth. You obviously can't see my tongue, but hopefully you can hear what I'm doing.
We
and if
can
that's
hear you. I can't see it, but we can definitely hear you. And I'm going to ask everyone to just adjust your sound so that it's comfortable for you. And I'm going to put myself on mute.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. And if that's difficult for you and you can't get the trill going, then do the gargle, like you're gargling, you know, some Listerine or whatever, and you're working with the back of the throat, what I call the crow core. So one of those, hopefully, that you can do. And I want you to just close your eyes and just tune in to your body and just sense, where is a part of your body right now that is feeling challenged, feeling tight, perhaps the energy's stuck, or it's not flowing so well, or maybe you've got a bit of neck tension, maybe you've got a bit of indigestion from dinner, from breakfast. Sorry, it's 11 a.m. there, isn't it? 11:30. Yeah, is there somewhere that your attention is drawn to in your body that you feel needs a bit of a shift? It's a bit of a stress. So I'm going to invite you all to stand up in true style with my clients. So we are getting a bit more earthed. And what we're going to do is we're going to work with that sound, with the trill or the gargle, and we're going to use movement of where do we need. We can use finger clicks, we can use hands like this, you know, you can see my hands hopefully, and I'm just literally breaking up the energy of where I feel that. Where is it in your body that you feel you need to shift that energy? Maybe it's the neck, you can use finger clicks, or you can use this. So we're going to do this plus the voice. So it's breath, sound, and movement. And we're going to work deeply with an open mouth, breathing. So let's take 3 deep breaths through the open mouth, just to really get more wide in the throat. Let's do that. So taking a nice deep breath in and letting go with a sigh or a sound. You may find you want to have a little bit of a shake out. Second breath in. And letting go with a sigh or a sound. I'm really dropping into the belly. So you're really starting to soften and open the body. Third time. Deep breath, even deeper, as deep as you can go. And letting go with a sigh or sound. And then just shake out the body. Just drop the arms. Just feel, where is that tension? You just give it a voice, or not give it a voice, just give it a shake. We're going to get onto the voice. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to work with the pneumatic trill. So instead of staying at one pitch, we're going to start from high, but then we're going to go to low. So there's a combination of other things that I'm going to add in. So we're going to do the trill, and then we're going to flick off the energy. Once we started to break up the energy, then we're going to flick off. So this is pneumatic trill with sonic flick offs. So it's going to look something like this. And you can't see my legs, but I'm moving my legs as well, shaking them out. It's like I'm shedding a skin. And I'm using wide throat. So I'm really giving the trill in the but then the opening with the So let's do it together. Let's do it 3 times. So where do you need to break up that energy? Where do you need that drill to go in? And just open it out, shake it out. And twice more. Let's do it. Really set your intention with this sound. Shake it out. And third time, it's like, what does freedom sound like? What does openness look like? What does it feel like? What is softness in your body? What does unity feel like? Good questions. So last time. Just open up the energy flow down the arms, down the legs, out through the feet, out through the hands. And use that open mouth. Really dropping into the belly. And hopefully you might be shifting some energy. Just coming into silence, into stillness, and feeling your body. Notice what you notice. Maybe you're feeling more energy flow, some tingling. Maybe you're feeling some warmth through your body. Maybe you're feeling more here, more grounded. Yeah, maybe you feel like you've cleared something out, let something go, like a snake shedding a skin, or a beautiful butterfly emerging from the cocoon. A new part of you reinventing yourself. And I love doing this. And, you know, even if you're in a place where you're having a stressful day and you don't have the opportunity to make noise, you can even do it just using the hands. Just shaking out, using the out breath. You know, if you feel like you can't make noise, you can still use the breath and the movement. So how was that, ladies? How was it for you? We'd love to, yeah? Awesome. We'd love to hear from you.
So thank you. Oh my gosh, that I would invite anyone would like to share, just to raise your hand, and I'll ask you to unmute on the computer, and then you can, there's Linda. There you go.
Make sure my sound is up enough. I was just wondering if you think the sound works as well as
Absolutely. Yeah. Anything that's vibrating. Yeah. Whatever works for you. That's a good point. I'll add that in. Thank you.
ours are harder for me. Sweet.
Oh, got it.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Oh, pleasure. Great. What did you feel?
Oh, I just feel really enlivened and light and kind of excited.
Yeah. Awesome.
Definitely. Really. Thank you.
Great.
Thanks, Linda. And I think we had Ellen.
Yeah, I would like to tell you about an experience that I had working with a partner when who had been this is at university now, and she had been in a car accident and severed over half of her arm at the shoulder level.
Oof.
And she, at that time, I didn't know anything about this, but she went to somebody, this is Toronto, Ontario now, who did voice work. And she told me about all the awful sounds that she was making, but her arm started healing and reattaching.
Oh, that's so amazing.
And that, it just blew me away. At that time, I was working part-time because I was studying. I was trained as a listening therapist. This is working at the listening center who used filtered Mozart music with, you know, yeah, so that I had that whole background. I worked 10 years for them while I was studying. And it's just the last couple of years that I took, I have several tuning forks, but I'm only using them on myself for healing. And the other arts, say professionally, and I'm trying to open up, as I say, more and more with the voice. And it's so interesting what you're doing. I have to share something with you because
actually I'm going to interrupt you, Ellen.
Okay. Yeah.
I'd like you to actually tell us what your experience with this was, with what Eeshi-Ra just had us go through. What was that experience like for you?
It's yeah, I found it's like at the throat that I found what I call the weird sounds is what came forth. And I thought, okay, so this is where sometimes, because I'm very much into my body because of my dance background. So then I thought, you see how my voice is already, it's already suffering. So this is where I really, really need to work, which really came out because of this exercise that you were doing.
Great. Yes.
Wonderful.
And that's what, yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. And then you start getting into the dissonance and then you can work with it. And you know what, I really feel, thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
I really feel that, you know, with the voice, I was told by a psychic that you will stop working with instruments at some point and you'll just become the instrument, you know, and I honestly feel like the voice is the #1 tool because it can change moment by moment. It can change tonality, timbre, intention, direction, you know, whether you're using it with light, you know, color as well. And it is infinitely, you know, possible in terms of where it can go, you know, and instruments are always going to be limited in that way. And I find it really hugely exciting. I mean, I've gone into uncharted territory and it's bizarre, but it's amazing.
It is amazing. And this is what's happening with me. I've got a similar thing to Ellen. Just for making that shrill sound and I wanted to share it. I wanted to share what Lisa did because I had been very, very ill with asthma attack and stuff and mostly in my throat chakra a couple of weeks ago. So what we just did helped to break up what was left there, like still lingering. So
great.
thank you for, like I said, I find myself just right now going,
Yeah.
just from that shrill, discordant sound. And I love that Lisa just shared, absolutely wonderful, had argument with husband today, and that helped shake it off.
Ah, awesome.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, Lisa.
That's great. Yeah. And that's what I love, you know, it's we can, you know, like you could be walking along with that for, you know, a couple of days, like, or, you know, the stresses that we build up in our body. And I just, you know, very much I feel like it's reclaiming what kids do, you know, like kids bang their knee and then they just do a really wide sound, really loud, you know, and then 5 minutes later they're back playing with their friends. You know, it's like their bodies know exactly what's needed. And adults, we've kind of shut ourselves down and gone, oh no, that's not appropriate. No, I don't want to upset the neighbors. No, you know, mother would be upset, you know, or whatever. You know, it's
can't do that now. I'm grown up.
Yeah, exactly. Or couldn't possibly. Yeah, so we have untrain ourselves.
So I want to, because we're quickly running out of time. So
Yes.
I'd like to ask you, how has this impacted not only yourself, but your clients in the world? And where are you going with this? And where do you go from here? And I just packed a lot into that question. So let's break it down. So the impact on you and your clients in the world from doing this work, what have you seen? What have they told you back?
It's been really beautiful with the body sonics work, with the voice work, because they're guiding themselves, and also the solfeggio tuning forks. When I first started working with that, I had one lady, she's a doctor, well, used to live here, she's not here anymore, but she's a naturopath and an acupuncturist. And she came to me with 28 years of pain from a car accident. Car went 100 meters off a cliff. She had, continual pain. And the doctors said, you know, you're just going to have to live with that. And she lived with it for 28 years. She came for me. We did actually an exchange because I was having acupuncture, which was very cool. And I did 4 sessions on her with the tuning forks, the 18 frequencies. And most of the session was actually through the energy field. It wasn't even on the body. I'm actually placing each frequency of the 18 on her sternum. So the body gets, receives that, but primarily it's through the energy field.
In the field, okay.
Yeah, and her first experience was she felt like 1,000 ants were crawling all over her. She felt like her nervous system was refiring. That's what I kind of intuited that what was happening. And then after 4 sessions, she walked away pain-free. Wow. And I was just like, wow, that's just so beautiful. I worked with a gentleman who'd fallen through a roof, 7 years of pain in his back. And we basically worked with the memory of that and what the trauma is and what the body wants to express about that, using the frequencies that I described earlier about shifting negative emotions or shifting, you know, challenging emotions. And, you know, the client goes as deep as they want to go. So, and he really went for it. And after that, pain-free, 1 session. Wow. It was so beautiful to see. And after that, he ended up doing a yoga teacher training, which he said he just couldn't have managed before. His back was able to be pain-free. And
he was ready to let go of it.
He was just ready. And then that's it. You know, I only want clients who come to me who are ready. People who don't really want to do the work, they don't usually find me. So I'm pretty glad about that.
I have the same experience.
yeah, it's great. And then I've had another lady who came, well, no, quite a few other people, but one that springs to mind. She had, I'm not quite sure, was it an accident? I don't actually know the details of it, but she had, she couldn't really walk very far. I think it must have been an accident. And she had pain in one of her legs. She couldn't climb stairs. She had to have a driver everywhere, and she couldn't exercise. And she was putting on weight. It was making her miserable. And she was interesting lady. She's a Muslim lady living here, and she had she's a seer, very deeply psychic, and she'd been ostracized from her community, and she immediately got, she was actually my first client, where I was following my intuition, and she just got it right away. And she did the practices, she did the homework, and she rang me up 6 weeks later, and she'd completely cleared the pain from her body.
That is just wonderful.
Yeah, and she can climb stairs, and then she didn't need her driver, and she was back exercising. So the whole energy had lifted. Yeah, and she did it for herself.
Yeah,
you know?
that's like, so you're not only sharing these amazing tools and skills, but you're helping people, you're empowering them to take charge and control of their own experience in their own healing. And that in itself is so powerful.
Yes. And actually what I say, and what I say with my Body Sonics clients is it would take a very long time to get through everyone on the planet. So I say to everyone, you get a 90-page ebook, you get the 3 audios. And when you have mastered this technique, please copy the ebook and send it to your friends and show them how to do this, and give them the audios and help them heal, so we can all have a healthy body. Everyone deserves health. So yeah, I'm really passionate about that. And, taking the power back, empowering ourselves, because we're so powerful and the voice is so amazing. So it has a real capacity to shift our state.
It absolutely does. And we're getting close to our time. So I've just shared the screen with your websites and the fact that you're offering us this wonderful discount code. So thank you. Do you want to speak to that a little bit about your self-care sonics with the tuning forks and the shift it classes?
Yes, I would love to. So self-care sonics, this is for all the practitioners who aren't taking care of themselves. I know for myself, loving ourselves and really taking that time for us is really important. And this is obviously also for people who are wanting something different. They're wanting a different way of looking after their body, and something which they can carry in their bag. A couple of tuning forks. Self-care sonics works with the 136.1 and the 111. And you can use it for indigestion, you can use it for neck tension, as you know, or muscle tension, any kind of muscle tension. You can use it for pain. You can use it for insomnia. 111, it's very good for that. And so this is a course over 15 hours of video guidance, and also an encouragement to journal your progress and uncover the layers. We're like an onion, so uncover those layers of the onion to basically get to a point where you're clear. Obviously we have daily stresses, but and I would love to share a special 15% discount for that course. I also have Shift It. So if I was talking about mentally resonating with something versus physically resonating, and this is that course where you get to really work with any blocks that you have. The vagus nerve runs through the voice, the pharyngeal branches of the vagus nerve, and then it stimulates all the organs, and it's directly talking to the subconscious. So it's a way of putting law of attraction on turbo boost.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and I love that course. That was the one where I got the download after being with Mary Magdalene and the Black Madonna tour in France.
You mentioned that, and I've got to, that's been a passion of mine for years, and we definitely have to continue that conversation, because you intrigued me so much when you just kind of threw that out there, the Black Madonna tour and Mary Magdalene.
It was it was really profound, actually, when you realize, I'll share that with you. It's really about the mirroring of the divine within you, you know, and you're projecting it outward onto a statue, and there's some amazing statues, that the energy of the places you go to. It was a really special time for me.
So
really
I'm going to ask everyone, just I'll leave that up for another second so you can take a screenshot or take a picture of that, so you have those links. And I know I just admitted somebody who was in the waiting room, so they must have had some confusion over the time, which is disappointing. That's too bad. However, however, the recording will be on the Sound Healers Association.org homepage within the week, and I will also send that to you, Eeshi-Ra, so you have it to share with your folks.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I just can't tell you how grateful we are to have you join us today and share this time with us. And I just feel so blessed to have gotten to know you better and been able to host you today. Thank you so much for joining us.
I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much, Nasiri, for the opportunity to share my gifts. I'm so passionate about sound, and I just want everyone to be well and healthy and happy. And sound, I feel it is one of the best catalysts at this time. You know, it's such a gift for us at this moment.
I could not agree with you more. So thank you everyone for joining us today and taking that time out of your day or night to join us, and blessings on the rest of your day, night. Thank you.
Much love.
Love back to you. Bye.
Yay.